right? So it I want to give you some clear cut information regarding the syntax directed translation, and we'll move on to the topics like today. There will be synthesizer attributes and inherited attributes. So that part we'll discuss in today's session. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible, right? It's okay. And now just see this. As we are having, just let me draw here. So from the syntax analysis, we will be getting parse trees, right? So it will be generating parse trees. So now we will be sending this parse tree to semantic analysis. Semantic analysis. Now the semantic analyzer will take this parse tree as an input, and it will do its decoration, and it will be converted like decorated parse tree, right? So during this conversion, there will be many things can be performed here. That can be out of box to the syntax analysis. There will be something which is not performed by the syntax analysis that can be performed by the semantic analysis in this phase. So that's what it is mandatory to go through the semantic analysis phase. So that is there are some few points here that we have to discuss. That is static checking. So even the type checking can be it is not performed by the syntax analysis, and the control flow checking, uniqueness checking, name checks. So these are the several types of static checking that can be performed during the syntax analysis, whereas these are not going to be performed via syntax analysis phase. Okay, so we'll be getting what is the main advantage of semantic analysis is these kind of checkings. Okay, so data type checking, control flow checking, uniqueness checking, and name checks. So these are the main advantages. And these ambiguous overload operator, this one, type correction, error reporting. Okay, so these are the main responsibilities can be done by the semantic analysis phase. And apart from those, no, while constructing annotated parse tree, it is going to do all the things at a one go. Okay, so let us see here, like what is the black color in this graph? What is the black color they have given with the pointers and all? That is during the syntax analysis. Okay, so during the semantic analysis, just they are checking like what is the data type of each and every variable, and what is the parent node, whether the data types are comparable or not. If it is comparable, then without generating any address, it will move on to the next levels. So let us take this one example here. It will consider this part, and in order to perform this parent node, first it will try to get what is the leaf node. So the leaf node is B, and it will check what is the here there is a variable B, and if it is a variable node, what is the data type of this variable? That is an integer, and there is a constant here. Which constant it is? Whether it is an integer constant or the float constant, or it will get the data type of it. And if you are getting two data types, no, based on this operator, what is presented at the presented at the parent node, it will try to compare. Int is going to be compared with the integer. Is it valid or not? Okay, that is like a data type checking. If it is valid, then it does not report any other. It will move on to the next stages. And just we can check here. There is a equal to operator, assignment operator. And for this assignment operator, there is a statement like a value, b value. So again, there is a variable a, and which type of integer it is. This is a integer data type. Which type of data type? And here there is a b, and which type of variable it is. And even this is also type of integer. Now we are assigning into two integer variable only. So no error, right? So these kind of things can be performed during the semantic analysis phase. So this is the main responsibilities of semantic analysis. So any doubts here? Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So whereas in the next slide, whatever we have discussed, that will be most probably that will be present in this slide. So that is the parser cannot catch all the program address. Okay. So there is a level of correctness that is deeper than syntax analysis. Means the syntax analysis just it will construct the parser, but it does not check for the deeper analysis. So that can be done with the semantic analysis by implementing semantic actions onto the parser. And some languages features cannot be modeled using context-free grammar. That is what kind of things cannot be covered during syntax analysis is if we have found an identifier, is the identifier has been declared before use or not, so that is unable to get from the syntax analysis, but this can be possible with the semantic analysis. And this is a problem of identifying a language. Suppose if you have a if you are getting some context free grammar rules, right? Based on the context free grammar rules, we are going to construct the parse tree. So whatever the parse tree we have constructed, and is the statement is belongs to a specific language or not, that is also one of the problem. And we have to check whether that whether whether the grammar we have used that is a context free or not. Even that is also one of the tasks here that cannot be identified during the syntax analysis phase. And in order to get these kind of solutions, we are moving to the next phase, that is the semantic analysis. Okay, so see here just some examples they have given here. So these are the some types: string data type, and the other one is the integer data type. Okay, so string is x and integer y, and now we are assigning the statement y is equal to x plus c. Okay, so if you are trying to construct this part tree, we will be not getting any error during the syntax analysis. Simply we will get the part tree like this. Okay, is equal. So y will be the LHS variable. On the right hand side, there we have to perform some addition. So that is a plus operator, and left side value will be taking x, and right side value will be taking 3. Okay, so during this construction of parse, we will be not getting any address, but while comparing, while matching the data type, and just we'll try to see here. Here it is string operator. When we are when we are parsing this parse, just x will be getting as a string character. Okay, string character, and here 3 is a constant, and it is of type integer constant, right? And now we are performing addition one, like we are going to execute the addition here for one string operator, one integer operator. Here it will produce some kind of error, right? Okay, and further this can be carried out here. So here we'll be getting string and integer. If there is a implicit type conversion is there, so that can be performed here. And during that, like if it is converted, this entire expression is converted into integer, then there will be no error. If it is not, then there is a implicit type conversion between float and integer, right? But not between string and int. Okay, so here the error will be generated. That error will be sent to the error handler during the semantic analysis. So here in this particular line, wherever we have written the code, during that line, we will be getting the semantic error. Okay, so this kind of error cannot be handled during the syntax analysis. One example, and let's see the other example. That is, they have declared integer a comma b, and this expression they have they are getting evaluated. That is b plus c. We are storing into a, right? But here c we have not declared. But if you constructed a part c, the part c will be like this: a, and here we'll be getting b, and we'll be getting c. Okay, so there will be no error during this construction of part c. But when we are evaluating these parts, like we have to get to know, like I'm going to see the A. So what is this A? Which type of variable it is, which data type it is, and what value it is holding right now. Okay, so that can be resolved with the semantic analyzer. And here also B. So where we have defined this B in the symbol, like if we have defined what is the location of this B in the symbol table, and what is the current value of B. So how we'll get to this? Suppose when we have discussed regarding parser, if we have seen some variable B, like some storage will be allocated for the data structure that we have used for the symbol table. So if this is a B, then what is the data type of it? that is the integer. Okay, what is the scope of it, what is the lifetime, and what is the address of B, where we have stored the B value, and what is the current holding value of B. So every information will be stored in the symbol table regarding each and every variable. Okay. So while doing this semantic analysis, now we'll see about each and every variable, and we'll see like the where it has been stored, and we'll get to know like whether it is existing or not. If it is existing, then we have to like if it is existing, then we have to like whether to produce the error or not to produce the error. If it is existing, we are not going to produce the error. If it is not existing, then we have to produce the error based upon the condition, whether it is a type mismatching or it is not has been declared earlier. So these kind of comments we have to be generated during the semantic analysis. And one more point here is an identifier may refer to different variables in different parts of the program, right? Suppose like so that can be resolved with the scope and lifetime. So if there is a variable B, the same variable I can use throughout the program in various places. In one function, I'll initialize value X, and in other function, I'll initialize the value X. But those are the local variables, right? So if I'm taking local variables, their lifetime will be restricted to that function only, not beyond that. So that for keeping in the view of it, we'll be declaring what is the scope of each and every variable, what is the lifetime of each and every variable. That should be keep it. Okay. So, and one more point is an identifier may be usable in one part of the program, but not in the other. Okay. So these are the some like some kind of use regarding the semantic analysis. Are you there? Are you listening? But during the class now, very less people are connecting in the starting. Like only some five to six people. And when the time being, the more people are connecting from next time onwards. So uh, be on time. Yeah. Okay. And again, some addition to this, like what are the other things you have to get to know? Like if you are getting some variable, what compiler has to know about these is whether the variable has been declared or not, or the variables which have not been declared means we have declared or not. If it has been declared, what is the type of this variable? But most of the questions now have been answered during the tokenization only. But still, if anything is left out, if you have not completed during the scanning, no, so those can be filled in the semantic analysis also for some time. So those we can call it as some runtime variables also. There will be some runtime variables and compile time variables, right? So if there is a runtime variables, so that will be stored here also. Whether the variable has been declared or not declared. If it is declared, no problem. If it is not declared, then we have to like here there will be some something has to be done, some processing has to be done, and data type, and next one is scalar, or is the variable belongs to an array, or the is variable belongs to some data structure, or it belongs to some function or not. Okay. So whether the declaration of the variable does each reference use, and is the expression type constant? If an array like this, what the declaration? Does it have any dimensions, 2 dimension or 3 dimensions, whatever it may be? Everything has to be done. Need to know by the compiler before going for the execution. And again, like if there is a function, no, how many arguments it is going to take? What are the different kinds of invocation? Like if you see these kind of sites, no, you will be getting what kind of information they want from the source code. In order to do the compilation, this is not particular about the semantic analysis and all, but before going to execute or before going to get the compile code, no, like the compiler should able to know about the code, source code. What are the variables we have declared? What variables we have not declared? And if we have identified some variables, what is the data type of variable? What is the lifetime? What is the scope? What is the address location? And what is the current holding value? And like whether we have used that variable as a like parameters or not in the function calls. So this kind of information will be needed to know by the compiler, and this information can be available at the lecture as well as the in further steps also. Okay. And if you are coming to exactly one point, no, like these are the exact requirements depends upon the language. We can't say it is not for, we can't say it is for one language. It can be for almost all the programming languages, right? Because every programming language will works in the same way, like how one will work mostly. So, like, and see here how to answer these kind of questions is these issues are part of semantic analysis phase, but we cannot say 100% this belongs to semantic analysis. But most of the the questions like whether it is declared or not, that can be answered during the lecture phase also, because in the scanning, no, like we have to divide it as a variable. So how we are going to divide it as a variable is means how we are going to classify this as a variable is based on the semantic or based on the regular expressions that we have constructed for it. And also the semantic analyzer answers to these questions depends upon various values like data type information, number of parameters and all, and the compiler will have to do some computation to arrive at the answers. And the information required by the computation may be non-local. What is this non-local and all, that we'll discuss later, because there will be local graphs and the non-local graphs, dependency graphs will be there. So based on that, we'll get to know what is the local and non-local there. And like how it is going to implement is by using some context sensitive grammars, and by using the extended attribute grammars. So here we'll be taking help of this. Anyway, CFG will be, during the syntax analysis, there will be CFG, right? So in the syntax analysis, we'll be having context-free grammar rules. And if you're unable to answer some questions during the syntax, semantic analysis, for the same context-free grammars, we'll be associating some grammars. Okay, we'll be taking help of with the CSG and some of the functions defined in the CSG, and in the same way we'll be depending on the extended attribute grammars, where it will give you the clarity for the productions which we have defined in the CFG. Okay, and anyway, the semantic analysis also will depends on the symbol table. Have you remembered this symbol table? This is the place where we are going to store all kind of variables that we can come across through the source code. In the source code, what are the variables and what are the tokens we are getting? All these tokens we have to store in some particular place, right? So that place we can call it as a symbol table that we are going to be implemented as a data structure. Okay, and in order to do this, no, like they are going to use the attributes and do the analysis with the parsing. So this is the most important thing in the semantic analysis. We have to do the analysis and we have to implement all the actions along with the parsing. And we are going to use the code for attribute value computation. So there will be, attribute value attributes. So we can call it as a synthesized and inherited attributes that we'll discuss in the further slides. Okay. And so this is how the semantic analysis will do it. And coming to the next part now, and like why we require some attributes is for lexical and syntax analysis, formal techniques were used. So that what is the formal technique that we have seen earlier, right? So for the lexical, we are going to use the pattern matching techniques, and for syntax analysis, we have used the context-free grammar rules. So based on this, we have implemented these two phases. And however, we still had code in form of actions along with the regular expressions and the context-free grammar. So in this semantic analyzer, anyway, this regular expression we have implemented in the lecture, and the context-free grammar we have implemented in the syntax analysis. Along with these two, we have to write actions. Okay, so these actions we can call it as a semantic action. That semantic action we should associate it with the context-free grammar. And the attribute grammar formalism is important, like it is very difficult to implement, and it will make any points to clear and makes an ad hoc code more organized and helps in doing non-local computations. So these are the advantages of attribute grammars, and why we are taking help of some specific attribute grammars as well as the context-free grammar. So these are some reasons. This part we'll get to know after seeing some kind of problems there. Okay. So what is the attribute grammar framework? That is generalization of CFG, where each grammar symbol has an associated set of attributes. This is like we'll be having grammars, right? So let us take I'm having the value like SGRice AB. This is one production in the CFG, right? Let us take one grammar. So in this grammar G, I'm having one production that is SDRI saving. Now I want to see here in last class we have discussed, right? So there will be some top down approach and bottom up approach. Sometimes I'll be using parent value, and that parent value I'm substituting in its children's, or else that is in the top down approach. In the top down approach, I'm having some parent value. That parent value I'm using in the children values. And if it is bottom approach, no, like I'll be using this children value that I'll be substituting in its parent, right? So based on this, we have to write. Suppose there is a node S. For S node, what are the different values we are getting? What are the different attributes we are getting? So here we'll be getting, inherited attributes and synthesized attributes will be there. Okay, so S dot value is equal to inherited, S dot value is equal to synthesized. Means how we are evaluating whether you are getting inherited attributes, whether you are getting synthesized attributes. So these are the different kinds of attribute grammar framework. So in this attribute grammar framework, we are going to take what are the attributes we can define for a node. Let us take if we are converting this into parts, every like this one we are going to consider as a node, right? Here the nodes are A node, B node, S node, and A and B are the leaf nodes, and S is the intermediate node, which will act as a parent for A and B. So here there will be some attributes for each and every node. The attributes, suppose if I'm using inherited attribute, so then I'm going to create like a S dot in. So here dot in is an attribute for the S. Okay. So suppose I can write S dot sy in, means this dot sy is an attribute for the node S. Okay, sometimes I'll be writing this s dot value. So s dot value is an attribute for the node S. Are you getting? So here we'll be generating some different kinds of attributes for each and every node. Here node in the sense what are the productions or what are the variables we have written in the grammar. So that we are going to consider as a variables. Okay. So this generation of CFG where each grammar symbol has an associated set of attributes. Okay. So these are the attributes. S dot sin is one attribute. S dot syn is one attribute. S dot value is one attribute for the node S. Okay. All these are the attribute set. So with these kind of values, we'll be building attribute grammar for each and every node. And the values of attributes are computed by the semantic rules. So suppose this is a production, right? So in this production, during the semantic analysis, we have to write actions here, right? Semantic rules or actions we are going to associate it. We are going to associate with the production itself. So after construction of part C, so what is the rule we have associated here that has to be implemented here? While implementing this semantic action, no, what are the different kinds of attributes we'll be getting, will be required. So that is the concept here. Okay. And we'll move on to the next slide and see here two notations for associating semantic rules with the production. That is a syntax directed definition, that is translation scheme. So see, have a look here. It will give you, it will be deviating us. Syntax directed definition and translation scheme. There are the two different categories. And in the syntax directed definition, high level specifications we are going to make, and it will hide the implementation details, and explicit order of evaluation is not specified. And coming to the translation scheme, it will indicate the order in which semantic rules are to be evaluated and allow some implementation details to be shown. And just to make a note of these two, because later we'll be getting confused what is SDD and what is SDT. And if it is syntax directed definition, just we'll be getting some high level specification. And here we are not going to get evaluation order. Evaluation order in the sense how we are evaluating the part three, whether it is a top-down approach, or whether it is a bottom-up approach. So we'll be not knowing what is exactly going to happen in the part trees. And it will hide the implementation details also. And just see the translation scheme. This translation scheme is somewhat, it will indicate the order in semantic rules are to be evaluated, and it will allow some implementation details which required to show. Okay. So this is, some points regarding attribute grammar framework. And next one, uh, you know, like if you take these two, If you take this syntax directory definition and the translation scheme, so based on these two, the concept is, and the conceptually, it will parse the input token stream, it will build the parse tree, traverse the parse tree to evaluate the semantic rules at the parse tree node. So if I take the first one, no, that is like it will pass the input token stream. So this is done during the lexical analysis. And the second one, that is the building parse tree, that is towards the syntax analysis. And the third one is semantic analysis, that is we have to traverse the parse tree to evaluate the semantic rules at the parse tree nodes. Are you getting? So these are the main three phases. And the evaluation, during this evaluation, during the see here, here the motto is the source code we'll be getting. So from the source code, we'll be getting the input tokens. Okay. So input tokens during the lexical analysis. Now the tokens will be sent into the syntax analysis. So the syntax and analysis will construct the parse tree. Okay. So now this parse tree will be sent to the semantic analyzer. Semantic analyzer. Now the semantic analyzer, just the same parse tree will be getting here. There will be no changes in the parse tree constructed in the syntax analysis. Now, what we are going to do in the semantic analysis, we are going to traverse the parse tree, and while traversing, we have to evaluate the semantic rules that we have used in the construction of parse tree as a CFGs. సో ఇక్కడ సింటాక్స్ అనాలిసిస్ లో ఏ అయితే సిఎఫ్జి మనం యూస్ చేసుకుంటామో ఆ సిఎఫ్జికి వాట్ ఈస్ ద సిమాంటిక్ రూల్స్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు బి అసైన్ and we have to perform the semantic rules associated with the CFG while traversing this parse tree. So that is the main duty of semantic analysis. What the main duty is, it will traverse the parse tree to evaluate the semantic rules at the parse tree nodes. So that is the main concept of semantic analysis. And how to do the evaluation? This evaluation may save information in the symbol table, and it will issue the error messages. It will generate the code. It will perform any other activity. So these are the what kind of evaluation will be carried out during the semantic analysis. What kind of evaluation is, while traversing this parts, if we are getting any other attributes, if we are coming across some any additional variables which are not stored in the symbol table, that information we have to store in the symbol table other than existing, not existing, other than existing, because this information we are getting from the lexical analysis, right? So ఈ పార్ట్స్ లో అంటే మేబీ అన్ని వేరియబుల్స్ డ్యూరింగ్ లెక్సికల్ అనాలిసిస్ మనం ఫైండ్ అవుట్ చేసి స్టోర్ చేసామనుకోండి, then no need to store it again and again. But here, every node will be getting some different kind of attributes, right? So, ఈ attributes information already exist ledu ante, then we have to store this new information to the symbol table. And while traversing this parse tree, if you are getting any error messages, that error messages can be issued, and as well as it has to which kind of code generate. I think here you'll be getting some question like how to generate the code. So here how to generate the code also is specific to the application. Suppose I have asked you to construct the abstract syntax tree by giving some statement. I have asked you, like I have given you like 4 plus 5. I don't want any value of it. Okay. Suppose if I want to get the value, even first class or second class child also will answer, right? That is as a 9. But I don't want this answer. But what I want is how we are computing. Or I want an abstract syntax tree. Now I want to construct syntax tree for the statement 4 plus 5. Now we have to create some kind of statements or generate some kind of actions along with the CFG, which will lead to construct the parse tree as an abstract syntax tree for the statement 4 plus 5. Are you getting? Here, if you are getting any statement, like evaluation of expression is not matters. What matters is how we are constructing, how we are taking each and every value, and how we are processing. So that is important here. And sometimes we will be required to generate the code. So if it is asking for generating some kind of code, no, so that statement we have to write in the CFG rules. So that is about some kind of grammars here. And just see here one example they have given. Just see the screen. This is the CFG, right? This is the CFG for signed binary numbers. So binary numbers means we'll be getting in zeros and ones, right? So let us take, there will be, I want to get -101 as a one binary number. This one I have to generate, or else I have to generate 1100, or else I have to generate 10110. Okay, so I want to generate binary number, signed binary numbers. So you have to write the CFG productions. Clear? So let's take it here. So this is the CFG here. So what is the CFG? Initially, I am taking one variable, that is n. So generally, we will be writing like this, right? Where n refers to the binary number n, and this n is going to have the positive numbers or the negative numbers. So that's what I'll be writing with the two values, two variables. That is, one is s and other one is l. This first s is for sign, where it is positive or negative, and this l is refers to the series of bits. Okay, so now I have to define yes, what is sign. In sign we are having two signs, right? One is the positive sign. If it is positive, I have to write plus, and if it is negative, I have to write minus. And again, you have to you have to take a concern here, like if there is a plus sign, it is not the arithmetic addition. It is used to indicate the magnitude of, we cannot say magnitude, the sign of a particular number. Okay, and L. What is L? Okay, so L is nothing but I supposed to get some series of bits, right? So you can make it as a recursive. Okay, you can go for left recursive or right recursive. Here they have given the left recursive production. So I'm taking the left recursive production, that is LB, or sometimes I'll be getting only one bit, that is B. Okay. So now this B can be written as either 0 or 1. Okay, can you agree with this CFG? Where the CFG is going to generate plus and minus binary numbers. So generally we will be we used to have the habit of writing only one one variable, right? But instead of that, no, they have clearly written number, sign, list, bit, and all. Exactly, both are same. So this is the CFG we are writing for signed binary numbers. Okay. So now the question is, I'm having this binary number. Now you have to write the semantic rules in such a way that you supposed to get equivalent value, equivalent decimal value. So that is the question now. Are you getting? So anyhow, we'll be having tokens and all, lexical analysis. I'll be getting tokens. So now in the syntax analysis, I'm having this CFG. Okay. So this CFG I have written. Are you getting? So this CFG rules I have written during the syntax analysis. Now what I'll get here? Suppose I have given, now I'll be getting parts tree. So let us say there is a statement of 1011. So for this thing I want to parse. So what syntax analysis will do? The syntax analysis will construct the parse tree for this, right? So can you construct parse tree for it by using this grammar? Can you do by your own? By using this grammar, can you construct this parse tree for 1011? Anyone? So how to construct this? Just let me here. I'll be starting with n. N can be written as S, L, where S is a positive number, right? So in place of S, I'll substitute positive. And in place of L, I want a 1011, right? So I'll be writing LB. So again, this L I am writing it as a LB. And again, this cell I am writing it as a LB. And this cell I am writing it as a LB, right? So now 1011, right? So this bit will be 1. And this bit will be 0. And this bit will be 1. And this bit will be 1. So this is the part C, right? So this is the part C given by the syntax tree, syntax analysis. Now this is the part C is the input for semantic. Semantic. Now what I want is, now for the same part C, I want to get equivalent decimal value. So what is the decimal value of it? Anyone? 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 power 2, and 2 power 3. 8 plus 2, 8 plus 2, 10, 10 plus 1, 11. So it is equal to 11, right? And don't say it is again binary value, it is the decimal equivalent. Now I want to get the decimal equivalent 1 here. I supposed to get 11 from this part C. In order to get 11 now, what are the semantic actions I have to write it here? Are you getting? Now I am reducing 1 to B. So what is the semantic action I have to write? Now I am reducing 0 to B. What is the semantic action I have to write? Now I am reducing this LB to L. What is the semantic action I have to write? Now I am reducing LB to capital L. What is the semantic action I have to write? Now I am reducing this LB to L. What is the semantic action I have to write? Now I am reducing this SL to N. What is the semantic action I have to write? So this is the main question. Now this we can call it as an attribute grammar that annotates a number with the value to it represents. Clear, no? Yeah. And see here, they have given the attributes and symbols they have given. Here you can take it as a number or you can take n value also, no problem at all. Okay, you can take instead of number, you can take n. Instead of sign, you can take s. Instead of list, you can take l. Instead of bit, you can take b. Now these are the symbols we are getting in the part C, or we can say intermediate nodes or the leaf nodes also. Now what are the attributes of it? Okay, what are the attributes is, for number I'm having the value, means I'll be generating value of it. And for sign, for yes, the attributes are negative or positive. In case if for the negative, I'll be giving true value or false value. If here I'm giving true value or false value. If it is true, no, then sign will be negative. If this is false, no, then sign will be positive. And here I'll be having the list. And for L, I'm having two attributes. And what are the two attributes is? One is the position, other one is value. Again for D, I'm having two attributes. One is the position, I'm having value. So that's what we have discussed, right? In the previous slide, we have taken some S can be written as AB. Okay, and as S is a node, and for S we are having different attributes. That is the inherited attributes, and it can be synthesized attributes, and it can be value attributes. There will be some attributes, right? In the same way, these are the symbols, and for these symbols we are having different attributes. For number we are having value as attribute. For sign we are having negative as attribute, and for list we are having position value as attribute. Even for bit also we are having position or value as attributes. Okay. And again we'll see, and just see here. Now this is how we are going to generate for first two productions. And what are the first two productions we are having? That is, number can be sign or list. Okay. Number can be sign or list. Sign can be positive or negative. So now I am trying to write the semantic actions. What are the semantic actions? See here, if sign is plus, we have taken attributes, right? For sign, we are going to call the attribute as a with a dot. Okay. Here, number dot value, sign dot negative, list dot position, list dot value, bit dot position, bit dot value. This is how we are going to retrieve the attribute values. These are the attributes. And suppose if I want to get the value of list is, then I have to define like this: list dot value. Okay, this meaning of this is the symbol and this value is the attribute. Or if I want to get position, then list dot position, bit dot position, bit dot val. This is how we will be accessing the attribute. And see here, now I am writing semantic action. These are the semantic action. What is the semantic action? Just we'll understand very easily with this first. So that is sign plus. Here the semantic action I am writing is sign is positive, means sign dot negative. This is the value we have taken. This is the false. Okay. And sign dot negative, it is a true value. If it is true value, means sign is negative. Where this negative is an attribute. Negative, for the negative attribute, we are giving two values. One is true value, false value. If negative is true, no, then the sign of a particular number is negative. If negative is false, no, then sign of a particular number is positive. And just we'll see here. Here we'll be having list dot position is equal to 0. Zeroth value will be assigning here, means first position. If I take the number, suppose if I take this, no, 101. Okay, this is the number. Then position will be identified like this. This is the 0th position. This is the first position. This is the second position. And this is the third position, like this. Or suppose if I'm getting 1011. So again here also. So in the 0, whatever we are having, position 0. So I think here we have to assign position 0. This is position 1. This is position 2. This is position 3. This is position 4, like that. Okay. So in the first position, whatever we are having, that we are assigning to list dot position. Okay. And here sign, if the sign is negative, number value we are assigning to the minus dot list value. In case ఇక్కడ sign లో నెగిటివ్ వచ్చింది అనుకోండి, ఈ sign dot negative అంటే ఇది ట్రూ అయిపోయింది అనుకోండి. సో హియర్ what is the number value we are getting, that number value is equal to minus dot list value. అంటే we supposed to write in the negatives. Otherwise, if the first position value is if it is not 0, no, then we have to write number value is a positive value. So this is the semantic rule we have written here. And the second one, and see here. And bit value. If the bit value is 0, then no need to write 0. Like 101. So generally, how we'll be converting into decimal? 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 power 2, 2 power 3, up to so on, right? So if bit is 0, then this position value is 0. If bit is 1, then what is the bit value? 2 power bit position. Okay, suppose this position is, the bit position is 1, 2, 3, like this. Okay, I think they have given bit position, no? So they will give the position like this, 0, 1, 2, like this. If the bit value is 1, suppose this bit is 0. 0th bit value is 1. So now this is equivalent to 2 power its bit position, 2 power 0. And here also the bit value is 1. So what is the position number? That is 2, right? So this value is equivalent to 2 power 2. So that's why we require two values here. One is for the position, one is for the value. And now I'm reducing this bit to list dot bit. So this will be given like list 1 position is equal to this 1 and 0, which is used to differentiate the list values. Okay, so if I'm reducing LB to L, then what action I should take is, so just for clarity, I think I should get that. First we'll try to do for it. Let us try to construct for 101. So for this, initially we'll be starting with a number, right? Number. And we'll be having sign plus L, sign L. And again, this L can be written as LB. And again, this L can be written as LB. And now this L can be written as B. Okay. So sign we don't have anything, so it will consider it as a plus. Okay. So here the bit value is 1. So the bit value is 0. Here the bit value is 1. Okay, so this is the question now. Now bit is equal to 0. So bit value is equal to 0. And here bit is equal to 1. So bit value is equal to 2 power bit position. Okay. So here 2 power bit position. So when I'm reducing this 1 to b, no, here bit dot value is equal to 2 power bit position. And here bit position will be given like um, yeah, just wait a minute here. This b value is equal to 0 now. This b value is equal to and 2 power bit position. Let us take bit position here is 0, 1, 2 and this value is 101, right? Bit value is equal to 2 power 2 and here bit value is equal to 0 and here bit value is equal to 2 power 0. And now we are reducing LB to L means this to this one. So here we are having two attributes, list position, bit position, list value. Three semantic actions I have to perform. Okay, means so L dot POS we have to fill here and here bit dot POS. I think here this one also we have to fill here. Now bit dot POS I have to fill and list dot 0 means so this is a 0 and here they have given 1 here, right? So 1 will be here. List dot 1 is equal to position. So now what we have to do is in list dot 1 position means this position what I have to write is list dot 0 position means what is the position we are getting from here. So for that we have to add 1 and that value we have to fill here. And bit dot position is equal to ఇక్కడ ఏదైతే వచ్చిందో దాన్ని ఇక్కడికి మనం సెండ్ చేస్తాం. And here list dot 0 value. This value is equal to list dot value plus bit dot value. Okay. So I think here it will be little bit confusing, but when you have fully constructed the parts, then we will be understanding it. Okay. So one more production that is list dot bit means when you are reducing this bit to L no, this B to L no, then we have to fulfill the two actions. What are the two action is we are having the bit dot position value and we have to fill the list dot value. So these are the semantic rules we have to assign. Like I'll be make it clear. Okay, so just this is for example. And see here, if you see this one, then we'll get to know. So which value they have considered? So they have considered the value is 101. 101 and just they have the part C is written with the black letters. Number can be written as sign list. Again list can be written as list bit. Again list can be written as list bit. Again list can be written as bit and in this bit we are loading one value, 0 value and 1 value. And according to the semantics that they have given, no, and here it is minus, right? So it is a minus 101. So this is the part 3 for it. Let me write it here. Sign list. Again for the list, it can be LB. Again for this L, it can be LB. Again for this L, it can be B. Now this bit value is 1, this is 0, and this is 1. This sign is negative. And now what the semantic rules we have defined in the previous slide, no? The semantic rules we have to apply on this part C. And the black letters for Rasanandi, we got the part C from the syntax analysis. And we got in a blue and green letters, right? So that is what a dependency graph. And a flow, it means chala eltundi. We want to make it clear. Just let us know. First thing is, while canvassing this, Is it visible? This is a small portion.
No, madam.
I think it will be here. It will be here only. We have to add one more thing. Alright. I'll try to write in the Jamboard. Yeah, now it's fine, right? Is it visible now? No. Okay. Because this tracing is, if you are perfectly do for one example, no, the same thing we'll be following for further examples. Okay, okay, right? So now we'll see for this example. So the example is what? -101, right? Yeah, we'll try to do for the same. -10. Yeah, -101. Okay. So now we'll try to implement this. Okay. So initially we'll be starting with the number. Okay. So number we are having sign and list. Sign. And here we are having list, right? And now for this list, we'll be having list 1 and bit. Here I'm not writing 0, 1 and all. The 0, 1 is used to indicate these values. Okay. So this list can be written as list and bit. Okay. So again, this list can be written as list bit. Okay. And again, this list can be written as bit. Okay, in this production. And now this bit is 1, this one. And this bit is 0. Let me write it here. And this bit is 1 here. Okay. So now we'll see the tracing here. Okay. So what the first tracing is number to sign list, means this one. Number to sign list. What is the what is the rule they have given here? What is the semantic? Here we have to complete different because sign is also there. No, sign will be minus. Okay. So here they have given the this rule, right? This one. This one we have to execute it. What is this? List dot position. Okay. So now I am reducing number to sign list. So here I have to write list dot position is equal to 0. Are you getting? Now list dot position. I'm writing POS. POS means position. Okay. Please remember like that. Here it is giving 0. Okay. And next, if sign dot negative. Okay. If sign dot negative is equal to true. Means if the sign is negative, yes, a sign is negative, right? So now number dot value here I have to write. Now I am creating one attribute here. Are you getting? Here I am creating one attribute for number. Number dot value. Okay. If number dot value is equal to the sign dot negative is true, right? Because this value is negative. Means this one it is taking. Sign value it is taking. Now we are sending here. Number value is equal to minus list dot value. Right now we don't know what is list dot value. We are at the initial stage. Number value is equal to minus list dot value. Now we wanted to get list value. We are moving downwards. Okay. So by the way, we are getting the position now. So what is the next production? That is list to list bit in this production. Okay. Now this semantic rules I have to implement. Okay. List 0 to list 1 means this is the 0 now. This is the 1 now. Clear? List 0 implies list 1 bit. Okay. So now we'll see what actions I have to specify. What actions I have to specify? List dot position means this list. Okay. List dot, is it visible? List dot position is equal to list 0 dot position. List 0 is this one, right? So what is the list 0 dot position? 0. Okay. So this 0 plus 1. This 0 plus 1 will be getting 1. Okay. And now we have to fill bit dot position. So bit variable is here, right? So now I'm creating attribute value of this bit. So bit dot position is equal to, what is the list 0 dot position? 0, right? So the 0 I'm writing here. Okay. And we have to fill this value. What is this value? List dot list 0 dot value is equal to list 1 dot value list 1 dot value plus bit dot value. Okay, bit dot value. But do you know list 1 dot value? ఈ value మనకి available గా ఉందా right now? No, it is in question mark. Bit value available గా ఉందా? No, this is also in question mark. Now we have to get these two values from the below levels. Okay, so again see here. Now again I am coming to the left subtree. Now again in the left subtree I got list 1 can be written as list bit. So again this production, right? So means, so now in this I have to write these rules. Okay, so now this will become list 0, this will become list 1. Already 1 I have made, and now I am making it as a 0. Now this is 1. Okay. So now I have to implement this value. Now which is list 1? List 1 is this, right? So now list 1 position. Now list 1 position is equal to list 0 position plus 1. What is the list 0 position? 1, right? So 1 plus 1, 2. This is 2 now. Okay. And now bit position. This bit dot position. Bit dot position. The position is equal to list 0 position. Now which one is list 0? This one, right? This position is 1, right? So 1 I am writing. And next value, list 0 value. List 0 is this root node, right? So now we have to write it here. Okay. So list dot, this is dot, list dot value is equal to list 1 value plus bit value. List 1 value plus bit value. List 1 value. This list 1 value will refer to this. This bit value will refer to this. We have to get it now. Okay. These two are in question mark because till now we don't know what is this value. And here also we have to get from the children's. Getting? So next one. Next we executed these three. List position. List 1 position I have filled. Bit position I have it. List value I have filled. Yes. Okay. And now again you come to this tree. Now I'm reducing list to bit, right? List to bit. So what means this one? So now these two actions I have to fill. What is these two actions? I'm reducing this list to bit. So here I have to fill bit to dot position is equal to what? Bit dot position is equal to list dot position. What is the list dot position here? 2. So that 2 I'll fill here. And what is the next action? Next action is what? Next action is list dot value is equal to bit dot value. So this value I have to write like list dot value is equal to bit dot value. So do you know the bit dot value? Right now we don't know, right? We don't know what is bit dot value. So in the question mark. So now I have implemented these two. So again come to further leaf. So that is bit to 1. So this bit to 1 I am reducing in this production, right? So what is the action associated with bit value? I have to compute here. What is bit value? Bit dot value is equal to 2 power bit position. 2 power. What is the bit position? 2 that we know. So 2 power 2 is equal to 4. Now I have computed this bit dot value. So you can reduce it to bit to list. Now in reduction, no, one action will be pending here, right? What is that? List dot value is equal to bit value. And now I know what is bit value. So that is 2 power 2. Now instead of question mark, I'm filling 4 here. Okay. So you can come here. Again next here. Now I am reducing 0 to bit. Okay, bit to 0 means this one. So what is the action? What is the semantic action I have to specify? The semantic action I have to specify is bit dot value is equal to 0 I have to fill. Okay. So now I'm reducing LB to L. The pending action is here. What is the pending action? List dot value is equal to list dot value bit value. Now we get to know what is list value, right? That is instead of question mark, I'm filling 4 now. And instead of this question mark, because this value computed, right? That is 0. 4 plus 0. That is 4 here. Okay. So now I am traversing like this. Now I am reducing bit to 1. Okay. Bit to 1 means this semantic action I have to implement. So on this action result is bit value is equal to, what is the bit value? 2 power bit position means 2 power 0. Right? Means that is 1. Okay. So now I know this bit value. Okay. Now you can reduce LB to list bit to list. Okay. So again, here we have pending work, right? What is this pending work? Question mark value. Here also question mark value. So here question mark value is list one dot value, means this value. This value we know. Yes, we know that we have filled right now, right? So instead of question mark, we will be writing 4. Okay. So now bit value is what? Now bit value is what? Bit value is 2 power 0, that is 1. Okay. So 4 plus 1, that is 5. Okay, now we reduce sign list to number. So what is that? Minus list dot value. Now we'll be having this list value is what? 5, right? So now number value is equal to minus 5. Are you getting? So in this way, we have to traverse the entire parse tree by implementing these actions. All these semantic rules we have to implement on the parse tree in order to get your purpose. Here the purpose is converting this number to its decimal equivalent. So with respect to that, they have written the semantic action. Now this semantic action I have to implement on the parse tree such that I got the binary equivalent value. Okay. Have you understood or any doubts here? ఇక్కడ అంటే ఇక్కడ మనకి లిస్ట్ 0 లిస్ట్ 1 బిట్ ఇచ్చారు. జనరల్ గా అయితే దిస్ ప్రొడక్షన్ ఈస్ నథింగ్ బట్ లిస్ట్ డిరైవ్స్ లిస్ట్ అండ్ బిట్. ఓకే, ఇది కదా ప్రొడక్షన్. ఇన్ కేస్ ఇలా ప్రొడక్షన్ ఇచ్చినప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఈ సెమాంటిక్ రూల్స్ లో లిస్ట్ 1 పొజిషన్ లిస్ట్ 0 వాల్యూ ఉందనుకోండి, ఇక్కడ 1 0 లేకపోతే ఏమవుతుందంటే విల్ బి గెటింగ్ కన్ఫ్యూజ్ హియర్. ఈ లిస్ట్ తీసుకోవాలా ఈ లిస్ట్ తీసుకోవాలా మనకి కన్ఫ్యూజ్ ఆబ్వియస్ కదా, ఎందుకంటే 2 లిస్ట్ ఉంది. ఇక్కడ లిస్ట్ డాట్ పొజిషన్ అన్నప్పుడు ఒకటి రిఫర్ చేస్తున్నాం, వాల్యూ అన్నప్పుడు ఇంకొకటి రిఫర్ చేస్తున్నాం. ఈ రెండింటిని డిఫరెన్షియేట్ చేయడానికి దే హ్యావ్ టేకెన్ 0 and 1 ఓన్లీ. బట్ అదర్వైజ్ వీ కెన్ టేక్ లిస్ట్ కెన్ బి రిటన్ యాజ్ లిస్ట్ అండ్ బిట్. Only semantic rules with respect to semantic actions only they have differentiated as a 0 1. So this can be implemented for same kind of like this kind of production. అంటే in case C derive C+T ఉందనుకోండి, ఈ ప్రొడక్షన్ ఇప్పటి వరకు మనం చూస్తున్నాం కదా. బట్ సిమాంటిక్ యాక్షన్స్ వచ్చేప్పటికి సిమాంటిక్ యాక్షన్స్ ఈకి ఒకలా డిఫైన్ చేస్తాం, ఈకి ఒకలా డిఫైన్ చేస్తాం. సో ఇన్ ఆర్డర్ టు డిఫరెన్షియేట్ దీస్ టూ ఈస్ నో, one will be written as 0, one will be written as 1. Only that is the point we have to remember. So any doubt here? I think you have mentioned something. I think that is at one, but that time I cannot able to see this chart now. While I'm explaining, if you are getting any doubt, you turn on your mic and speak. Otherwise, it's very difficult to come here and see the messages, right? If I'm teaching, if you are getting questions, you turn on your mic and speak. Then I will get to know. So further what we'll be doing is ఇలా అంటే ఇలా మనకి ఇలా చూసాం కదా. సో ఫ్రమ్ దిస్ విల్ బి జనరేటింగ్ డిపెండెన్సీ గ్రాఫ్. సో దట్ పార్ట్ ఐ విల్ బి ఎక్స్ప్లెయినింగ్ ఇన్ ద నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్. CSE 1 and 2 are here, right? Actually we are having P1 and P2 on Wednesday, right? CSE 1 and 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually I'm having some work on the same day. So it may not be possible to take the class on Wednesday. So I'll be scheduling the class to tomorrow's afternoon. Is it fine for you? Yeah, okay. The time I'll mention, I'll update in the WhatsApp. Mostly in the tomorrow's afternoon. Okay, Wednesday's class I'll prepone to tomorrow's afternoon. Okay. Yeah, now I think now we can leave.
Madam,
Hello. అంటే మన కాలేజ్ నుంచి పెట్టడం అవ్వదు అంటున్నారా సార్? ఓకే. 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 ఓకే సార్. ఓకే. ఓకే సార్, చెప్తాను. అంటే అతను రిపీటెడ్ గా మెసేజెస్ కాల్స్ చేస్తున్నారు. ఓకే సార్. ఓకే. ఓకే. ఓకే సార్. ఓకే. 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 ఓకే సార్. ఎనీ డౌట్స్? I think someone is asking, no?
ma'am,
Yes.
if a parse tree is too big, then how can we get decimal values? If suppose -101 is -5, ma'am. This is okay, ma'am. The parse tree is too big, then more number of decimals is coming out, ma'am. 11110, 110.
Yeah, even though we are getting actually మనకి ఇక్కడ స్పేస్ తక్కువ ఉంది కాబట్టి మనకి చేయడానికి కష్టం అవుతుంది. బట్ ఫర్ అంటే కోడ్ తో ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేసినప్పుడు ఈజీయే కదమ్మా. లూప్ రన్ చేస్తే అయిపోద్ది కదా.
మనం ఈ 101 వాల్యూస్ అనేది దానికి కూడా కోడ్ రాసి మనం డెసిబల్ వాల్యూ గెట్ చేస్తాం మేడం.
అంతే అమ్మా. ఇప్పుడు ఈ యాక్షన్స్ అన్ని ఉన్నాయి కదా, ఈ యాక్షన్స్ అన్ని నథింగ్ బట్ ఇదంతా కోడ్ ఫామ్ లో రాస్తాం. అంటే చిన్న వాల్యూ కాబట్టి మనకి పార్ట్స్ వచ్చింది, సరిపోయింది. నీ డౌట్ అదే కదా. ఇన్ కేస్ సపోజ్ సాన్ నెంబర్ ఇచ్చారు, ఒక 100 డిజిట్స్ ఉన్నది, అదే కదా డౌట్ మీది. అప్పుడు ఎలా చేస్తామని.
అప్పుడు ఆ డిజిట్ ఆ వాల్యూ అనేది ఎలా వచ్చింది డిజిట్ అని మామూలుగా? అప్పుడు
ఆ వాల్యూ అనేది ఇంకా పార్ట్స్ ఇలా ఎక్స్టెండ్ అవుతుంది కదా. ఈ లిస్ట్ మళ్ళీ లిస్ట్ బిట్, ఈ లిస్ట్ బిట్, అలా నీకు 100 క్యారెక్టర్స్ వచ్చే వరకు వస్తుంది.
వచ్చిన తర్వాత డెసిమల్ వాల్యూ ఎలా వస్తుంది మేడం? అదే
డెసిమల్ వాల్యూ ఎలా వచ్చిందంటే ఇలా బాటమ్ అప్ లో వస్తుంది కదా. ఇప్పుడు ఇది ఎలా వచ్చింది? లీవ్ లెవెల్స్ కి వచ్చిన తర్వాత లీవ్ లెవెల్ వాల్యూ నుంచి సబ్స్టిట్యూట్ చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్తున్నాం. ఫస్ట్ టైం ఇక్కడ ఎక్స్పాండ్ చేసినప్పుడు క్వశ్చన్ మార్క్స్ ఉన్నాయి కదా అన్ని. బట్ వన్స్ నువ్వు లీఫ్ నోడ్ కి వచ్చిన తర్వాత లీఫ్ నోడ్ వాల్యూ పొజిషన్ ఐడెంటిఫై చేశాను నేను ఇక్కడికి వచ్చేప్పటికి. ఈ పొజిషన్ 2 అని, 2/0 ఈ పొజిషన్ వాల్యూలో 1 ఉన్నప్పుడు 2/2 వాల్యూ రీప్లేస్ చేస్తున్నాం. అంటే పొజిషన్ నెంబర్ వేసి. జనరల్ గా కూడా అలానే చేస్తాం కదా మనం. సేమ్ మనం ఎలా చేస్తామో అలానే చేసాం. బట్ ఇన్ కేస్ నంబర్ లెంత్ గా ఉన్నప్పుడు దిస్ కెన్ బి డన్ విత్ ద కోడింగ్. మోస్ట్లీ మనం సిడీలో చెప్పే ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ అన్ని వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు డూ విత్ ద కోడింగ్. అన్ని మాడ్యూల్స్ ఇవన్నీ జస్ట్ మనకి అర్థం అవ్వడానికి మనం ఇలా సింపుల్ పార్ట్స్ లా కన్వర్ట్ చేసి తీసుకుంటున్నాం. కానీ ఎవ్రీ ఫేజ్ ఇస్ సెట్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ ఓన్లీ. ఓకేనా? క్లియర్ అయిందమ్మా? ఎనీ అదర్ డౌట్స్? డౌట్స్ ఏం లేకపోతే లీవ్ అవ్వండి. బట్ టుమారో ఐ విల్ బి టేకింగ్ క్లాస్ ఫర్ సెక్షన్ 1 and 2. If 3 and 4, 5 also want to join, you can join because online kada. I think it's fine, no? మళ్ళీ ఇన్నిసార్లు టీచ్ చేయడం కంటే ఐ ప్లాన్ అకార్డింగ్ టు ఇట్. ఓకే. Okay, then I'll inform the timings. I'm leaving the meet.